Out here in the snow already. I can't even freaking believe this. It's only November. Why are we having snow? Hi, it's Jared from Strongroots Farm. Today we're going to talk about grazing in the snow. Today is November 10th. Shouldn't stinking be snowing in Ohio. This is ridiculous. But we're out here. It's freezing cold. We got to check waters now, and our whole grazing system of what we thought we were going to do, it's put up on its end because of all this snow. So stick around today. I'm going to talk to you about the differences and some of the problems we have and what we have to think about as the coming months come and we still have acres upon acres of grass left to graze. What changes? What do we have to do? Stick around. We'll take you through it all. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining us. So the first thing we've got to do is check waters, right? And so we walked out here, and that's the main reason I came out to the cattle even today, was to check this water. Obviously it's below freezing. We got snow everywhere. Our water looks okay though. Main reason why, I have a very small container. It's only 75 gallons, which allows them to turn it over quicker, and water coming up through it, should be somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees. I think Ohio, they say it's 55. Whatever, it's above freezing because it's coming out from ground temperature and it's keeping that water from freezing up. Now tonight, when they don't drink and it gets to be 17 degrees, it will freeze up and I will have to bust it because I don't have electricity out here and we don't have any automatic waters that have good insulation or electricity in them to keep them from freezing. So we got to deal with frozen water. That's all I'm going to talk about, frozen water, in this video. I do have a complete video, looks like this, where we talk about how to keep water from freezing, if that's your issue. But today we're going to talk about grass. What do you have to change because of snow and ice when it comes to grazing? As we talk about this, the first thing comes really from a question. Well, we just did a video on how to clean fence rows better, right? And I had a question asked, what does the ice and snow do to our electric fence? So we were talking about when grass touches it, it brings our voltage down because each piece of grass steals a little bit of electricity. And I made the comment back because I try to answer all of my comments, respond back to them at least, or give a thumbs up, which means I'm at least acknowledging I read it and thank you. So we were going through there and I responded back that I've never had a problem with ice or snow when it comes to electricity. So as far as your temporary fence, grazing, electricity out here, ice and snow doesn't really have a problem for us, but it does make sense. You know, water turns into ice, ice and snow, and electricity travels through that water. So then if you have a bunch of snow or ice hanging on your fence that then touches the ground, it could, in theory, ground your fence out. Now, we don't typically get that. In fact, we don't get snow in November typically. This is crazy. But I did notice, I did want to tell you today, we had about 2 to 3 inches last night of snow. I did check the electric fence. It did not fall at all. There's 0 drop due to the snow today. And the main reason is as you look, we'll look at this part that I haven't cleared here. There's no ice or snow on it. Now it is turned off right now, but the snow and ice isn't hanging on there. Now, if you get enough snow and it builds up to the fence, that's a problem. And if you get ice hanging from it from cold water, so it rains and then it freezes real quick and you'll get ice sickles hanging from it, I could see where that would either damage your fence or draw electricity out of it because it's touching the ground. Like I say, we're not having that issue right now. So as far as grazing goes in this video, your electric fence should still work the same, but I do recommend you double check it. Go along and test lines that you're hooking up to it. So today is Monday and we got the snow last night. On Saturday, it was 50 degrees. We put these cows into this paddock on Saturday. We expected them to spend about a week in this paddock. So has the snow changed our timing and the amount of ground? Not really, because you can still see the grass, okay? You can still see the grass through there. They have plenty to eat. Are they standing here listening to me? Yes, because they're used to being moved. They know when I come out here on the gator and I'm standing by a fence, it usually means they're getting new grass. Could they use some more grass? Maybe, but as you look out through here, there is plenty of forage for them. It just now has a little bit of covering, but they're standing here. They're not looking for more food. They're full. If you look at the sides of them, it's just simply habit for them. That's the reason they're standing here. As we talk about future planning, we look out here. This is paddock that they're going to be going into eventually here. Tons of grass here. I mean, it was about 2 foot tall on Saturday in most spots. We've had good rest on this, probably 90 days. We've had good weather, good rain. There's clover and alfalfa still. We still saw buds on Saturday out in this paddock, but now we have all the snow on it. Well, luckily, traditional Ohio or typical Ohio weather, it's going to be back to almost 60 by Friday. So we won't have this problem with the snow, but let's say we were to continue to have this weather, how would it change my paddocks and my grazing strategy? Well, first off, the snow does not necessarily change the nutritional value of the grass that's here, okay? So comparatively in the week. So on Saturday, they had full access to it. It was good grass. The weather does make the grass go dormant. We know that. So that was after the first frost. We had that a month ago. So grass had already started to go dormant. But from Saturday to today, did the snow change the grass nutritional value? The answer, I believe, is no. Now, the only way I could really 100% say that is if I tested it on Saturday and tested it again today at a lab, which I did not do. But when you look out here, the nutritional value you're gonna gain as a farmer from your cattle are gonna gain from this when you put them in here is less because they're gonna get to less. So that's the very first thing. My paddocks with snow on them have to be bigger than my paddocks if they did not have snow, especially in the same week. And it's about the same as my paddock size, let's say mid-November versus mid-January. My paddock size mid-January is gonna grow because the grass, the longer it is in frozen weather, the dormancy gets worse and the nutritional value drops continually until we get regrowth back in the spring. But from Saturday to here, the snow doesn't necessarily change that value. So I want you to understand that it's not being killed by the snow, but there is something else that can kill it. Now today, the weather is like 29, 30 degrees. So we're right at the brink of some of this melting. So roads were clear, right? We didn't have a problem driving to work. School buses didn't have a delay in school. It's not a big deal. And please, if you're from Michigan or Wisconsin, I understand you've had this for a month and you deal with all this, but it's not normal for us to have to deal with this in November. So that's why I'm bringing this up and that's why it's frustrating to me today. But as we talk about what else could kill this because of the snow, it has to do with the leaf freezing. So our grass, if we went down and grabbed a hold of it today, it's not gonna snap off because it's froze. Is it much colder and is it close to freezing? Yes, but we're really right at that pendulum of it's not ready to break off yet. If the grass freezes to where when you grab a hold of it, you can bend it over and break it off because of it's so froze, that usually means that the ground is froze below the root level or at the root level. The grass is still pulling heat from the ground because that's where the roots are. Once the grass and the tops of the grass get into a frozen state, your cattle will kill the grass with every step that they take. Now, can they still eat it? Yes. They'll take a bite. The grass will be, in the kind of a frozen state. The moisture inside the grass molecules will be frozen or freezing up, and they'll still be able to eat it and take it in. It'll be fine. But where their 4 feet step down, they just snapped off grass that they won't eat, and the part that they snapped off or bent over and broke will die off or fall back down into the ground. So when you're grazing on frozen ground like this, you actually waste more grass than you eat because they have 4 feet and 1 mouth. And the more they walk, the more they destroy. So that's why it's really important if you're gonna graze like this, and we do weekly moves at this time to save us energy and to save us workload, right? Or twice a week we've been moving. We'll now have to go to daily moves and we'll have to pack them in tighter because I want them to walk less. And what the other thing that does is it forces them to try to dig more and eat more to get through the snow to the grass. Whereas if they have more room to roam, they're more likely to walk around and search for grass that's not buried in snow. If you pack them in tighter, it forces them to say, okay, there's some grass here, I just got to get to it. And that's what we want them to do, to destroy less acreage per day. So we're gonna go back to daily moves or twice a day if you can afford to do that. So let's talk about what the snow effect has on our cattle. You can see here, we got some ears. It's maybe got a little bit of ice built up on it, ice on the head here of this one. But overall, they're fleshy and their body temperature is keeping them from having ice or snow on them. As the snow and the weather gets colder, you'll see cattle with ice on their back, right? Cows mainly, cows and bulls. As they get snow on them, they'll have ice on their backs. That is a good thing. So when you see an animal, a beef animal, a cow, a big steer with ice on their back, it usually means that they have enough fleshy fat on them to put like a coat on them. So the outside of their coat can have snow on it, but their internal body temperature can be fine, just like you with a heavy coat. Now, all of that was more like a, are we being mean to them kind of conversation. Most farmers don't worry about their cattle. They're made to survive in this weather and much, much colder. We've seen -8 here. Our cattle are just fine. There are 3 things that affect cattle negativity when we get into cold weather. So we have wind, water, and then the temperature itself, right? Is it wet? Is it windy? And then what is the temperature itself? And cattle can handle one of those at a time, sometimes, or a lot of the times, 2 of those, but all 3 of those is when we get dangerous. So if it's really, really cold and they're wet and they can't get out of the wind, it becomes dangerous for cattle. That's where you start to lose younger calves. That's where you gain sicknesses, and that's where you typically have problems. But that simply means if you can take away one of those factors, the cattle will recoup and they will remain safe. Usually that's, we get them out of the wind. We either set a windbreak or we have a barn where they can get out of the wind and the rain, and now we've taken 2 of those away. But we don't have to heat our barn. We have to get rid of 1 or 2 of those 3 factors and our cattle will be fine. But as we look at our situation today, what is this weather? So 28 to 30 degrees, it'll be 16 or 18 tonight. We've got snow on the ground that's got it covering our grass. Mid-November, what's the danger for our cows now? What's the harm? What is gonna happen in this weather? Well, the first thing is that it's gonna be a little harder for them to eat because they have to they're gonna search for places that's easier to get down the snow, which means they're walking more, which means they're burning more calories. If they're burning more calories, they're not adding weight onto their body. They're not sitting around getting fat, so they're exercising, burning those calories. Same thing as humans, right? If you're too fat, get up and exercise. It's because we don't move enough. The other thing is there's another way we burn calories, same in humans as in cattle, and that is our internal body burns calories to keep our body warm. One of those factors in humans is shivering. Your teeth will chatter, you'll shiver. That is your body forcing yourself to move, to create heat, to keep your body, your internal organs from shutting down, keeping them warm. Well, the cattle do the same thing. Their body is gonna work internally first to keep their body temperature correct. Therefore, just by standing and staying warm, they're gonna burn more calories. The colder it gets, the more calories they burn in order just to stay warm. The more calories they burn, the less weight they gain. So when you have those factors, they're gaining a little less weight because they're burning more calories looking and they're burning more calories to keep warm. That's why it's really crucial to have good, high quality forages, high protein forages, high sugar forages, in front of them at all times, so at least they're not having to do all of that extra calorie burn and have less intake because we have low quality of forage. So that's why we're working to have good stockpiles, to have good fermented in our haylage, good fermented forages, and good stockpiled hay to keep these cattle, because these are gonna be butchered, this is our stocker herd, keep these cows, these calves, having good average daily gains. Now, I will never gain the same amount now that I gain in the summer. It's just without a doubt. When I have good forage in the spring and summer, and they are lackadaisical and it's perfect weather, that's when they're gonna gain the most. So it's not about my management at this point, but my management does affect their daily gains. So the more things I can do, the better feed I can get in front of them, the more ground I can give them, the better windbreak I can give them, all of those will contribute to a higher daily gain. And that is what we're looking for in this market of raising meat. Sun's shining right in my face, and of course I left my glasses up at the barn, but when does the snow get too bad? Like if you have snow, you have cold weather like this, when is it just impossible to graze? When you just are forced to go eat hay, whether it's unrolling hay out here or going to a barn. So we're gonna talk about that. And so when the snow covers up all of the grass, it's not impossible, but it's not realistic for a stocker herd. You're not gonna have enough daily gains. They're gonna spend too much energy and they're not gonna be really gaining anything. They're probably gonna be losing some weight at that point just to maintain their life. Because the snow has covered, it's too much work for them to get to this forage. At that point, you can either put hay in a ring out here and bale graze, you can unroll hay out here and then eat the unrolled hay and leave it out here, or you need to go to a feedlot or a barn where they have a hay loft or whatever you would have to feed down into a feeder if you're looking for daily gains. Now on cows, so cows, hopefully you're coming into the winter with a good coat on. You have a good frame score, as they would say if you want to look that up, coming into winter. Your cows are fat and fleshy when we get to this point. Cows can go a little longer. Now, because we're not looking for average daily gains in cows, they're already fat. Hopefully they have a calf in their belly, they're pregnant, and they're gonna drop in April. We're just looking to keep them fleshy enough. So they're not looking to gain weight. We really don't want them losing, and if they do lose, we don't want them losing very much. So if the snow has completely covered the grass, that's a personal decision. I would still take them up somewhere else or bring hay out to them. But they could survive. They could dig down, they could get enough grass and be fine, but typically you're gonna lose a little bit of that flesh over the winter if you start to feed like that. The other situation that you're gonna come out to where it's not gonna be a good situation for stockers or cows, and we get this a lot in Ohio, where you'll get a bunch of snow and then during a day, it'll warm up a little bit and it'll melt the top layer, or perhaps it'll even rain a little bit, and then it'll get cold again at night, creating like an ice layer over top of the snow. And so this is where if you're a skier, it's super fast because the top is really hard. But out here, it's like a crunch, right? Every time you step, you crunch through into the snow because you're breaking a thin ice layer. That's when it becomes very, very tough to graze because they're having to bust through the ice, and the best way for them to bust through that is to step on it, but they just broke off the grass and they really don't like eating where they stepped. Can they do it? Can they bust through with their nose and eat grass and get through that ice like that? Yes, but it's just not ideal, especially for a stocker herd you're trying to put daily gains on. So with those two factors, when the snow is above the grass or when there's ice on top and they just can't get to it, I recommend you feed hay. Now, in all reality, this situation that I'm in today, and I'm trying to put daily gains on these, I should be feeding hay. I should be bringing hay out in this situation, but I'm not. And the reason is because the forecast says by Friday, we're gonna be back to almost 60. And so it's only gonna be like this tonight, and then sometime tomorrow it's gonna warm up. I would say by tomorrow evening when I get home from work, most of this snow will be gone and we'll be back to hitting this grass. So that's the only reason, that factor is the only reason I'm not bringing out hay to them. I can let them, you know, maybe gain a half pound today, each head, and survive today, and then we'll be back rolling tomorrow. And we've got a couple weeks where it calls for no cold weather again on the 10-day forecast. So if I brought hay out today, they would eat some of it, but they're still gonna get the good grass through the snow, and they would pretty much waste a little bit of it, and I wouldn't wanna back graze to that bale, and I don't wanna just unroll a quarter of a bale. So I'm trying to play the game. Do I bring out hay? Do I just let them survive for a day and then tomorrow when this is melted, we'll move them on or see what this is like again? So it's personal decision. I'm gonna play the game for a day and say, look, you guys will be fine for a day or two. Tomorrow, I'll get you over here, maybe the next day, depending on what you look like. The biggest problem I'm gonna have right now is it's gonna be 17 tonight and I'm gonna have to go to work at 5. So I'm gonna have to get up early to drive out here to bust ice off of that water because we don't have waters that won't freeze. Now, once I bust an ice layer that I believe will be there in the morning off and the water starts to run and I get them up and force them to go over to take a drink and they start drinking, they'll be fine throughout the day. But I'm gonna have to get my butt out here in the morning, and that's what stinks about this. Well, there you have it. I hope that video helped, taking you through a few of the things and a few of my decisions when we talk about working in the snow. And obviously all this would change, my decisions would change if it was constantly snow in my forecast. I would really be working my way back, getting to waters that don't freeze. You can check out that video about how we do that, what things we would change to set things up differently. All those things would go about differently if the forecast wasn't different. So I hope that helped you today as we walk through that and looked at what you can and cannot do. And when we look at this, we're talking about what planning did you have with your stockpiled grass? So we have all this grass in front of us, but if we have all this grass, but we can't graze it because we know we're in Michigan and we're gonna have tons of snow, we're gonna be feeding hay anyways, it would have been better to bale that earlier and not leave it as stockpile. So that's where you should be looking at this time. Do we have the right amount of stockpile and did we bale enough to feed later? Hope that helps you. Appreciate you watching, like and subscribe, come along with us. When we get into this kind of the season, we go to strip grazing, and I have a lot of videos for that versus paddock grazing, where we'll move the line 6 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet every day. It's usually a couple fence posts, whatever it would be. And we use that method of grazing during this time so they don't step on as much. And so we have lots of videos about that. Check us out from last year, and we'll get back into that as we continue on. But I appreciate you watching today. Until next time, have a good one.